All right, guys. Hey, thank you so much for coming in. First, before we go through any introductions, I just got to kind of talk about the serendipity of being in Austin, Texas. So we originally were talking about doing this podcast yesterday, and we were going to push because you guys were traveling. Well, you happen to be traveling in the same city that we live in, and I think Austin is one of the few cities that actually would be able to have that experience. If we were in Omaha, the chances would be pretty low. So I really appreciate you guys actually coming in and talking today. Why don't we just start off with a little introductions? Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
You want me to go first? I'll go first. I appreciate it, Peyton. Thanks for having us on. Myself, my partner are excited to be here on your podcast. My name is Brandon Wimbush. I'm a former quarterback for the University of Notre Dame, from the northern parts of New Jersey. Gatorade State Player of the Year. I like to bring that up because my high school just beat Ayden's high school in a northern Jersey rivalry. I studied accounting at Notre Dame and spent some time doing some venture capital work at Excel in Palo Alto. So super excited again to be here and speak on Mogul and the Austin community in general.
Absolutely. Sweet.
Yeah, Peyton, echo everything that Brandon said. Really excited about the opportunity to be on the pod here. Background about myself, Ayden Syal, also grew up in northern parts of New Jersey, attended the University of Notre Dame, where I graduated with a management consulting and sociology degree, and then went on to continue my professional career working for Morgan Stanley and Lexington Partners in private equity, and then in a corporate strategy role at IHS Markit. But extremely excited to discuss what we built here at Mogul and the value that we're going to be able to provide not only to the Austin community, but to communities throughout the country and to athletes throughout the country as well.
Awesome. Well, so you guys both, dropped that you both attended Notre Dame, and, everybody on the podcast knows I was a Purdue guy, so I have to, give a little jab there, but you guys got us this year, and that's okay. Somehow though, if you guys were in the top 5, we would have beat you, because that's kind of like that's our thing right now. Yeah, we're the spoiler makers, except that did not happen against Ohio State. They probably played one of their best games of the season, and I hope they play like that, because I want the Big Ten to do well. But so you guys both went to Notre Dame. Is that originally where you guys met, or was that a connection that kind of brought you together later on down the road?
Yeah, I think it brought us together down the road. But we had originally met at Notre Dame more on a social level. Aiden's a couple years older than me, so it was just kind of just the Jersey thing, and okay, this kid went to a rival high school, and we know of each other. And then we were connected more professionally later on in our careers at the end of our Notre Dame careers, and then more so professionally when obviously we were both in the professional ranks, and Ayden was looking to explore the college athletic space. And he did a really good job of obviously maintaining his network and then reaching out to athletes who had a great perspective on obviously what was to come in the new name, image, and likeness rule.
Gotcha. So Mogul, we'll get into what it is and what it's geared to do, because I think it's an incredible product, and as a former athlete, I'm really excited because I think that NIL is the future, and we've touched on it, NIL, what it is, what it's all about, and we'll continue to cover that too. But so you guys both studied business in different capacities at Notre Dame. What kind of got you interested in continuing with that, maybe starting your own business? What kind of led to the foundation and the start of Mogul?
Yeah, so at the time, dating all the way back to October of 2019, I had been working in private equity at the time, and definitely enjoyed my experience, but I never felt like I was truly making an impact and making a difference in the lives of those around me. Taking it one step further, right? The hours were pretty brutal, and you really just feel like you're a spoke in a wheel.
Yep.
Purely execution oriented. So I was really looking for an opportunity to make a difference in the lives of others through an area of passion, not just an area of, execution through finance, right? So at the time, California Governor Gavin Newsom had put protocols in place that would allow California athletes to monetize their name, image, and likeness starting in 2023, which was when the original business plan for Mogul was written. Candidly, it hasn't changed too much since then. We recognized that athletes were going to need a safe, secure, and compliant medium to connect to opportunities to monetize their name, image, and likeness. And that's what the original business plan for Mogul was. So that was all the way back in October of 2019. And then, shortly after that, the dominoes started to fall from a regulation perspective, really allowing Brandon and I to team up here and start developing this product.
Absolutely. So what is NIL? We dropped that acronym a couple times. What, you guys are around it a lot. So what is your best definition of NIL?
Yeah, name, image, and likeness, right? What it is it allows athletes to monetize their brand or their publicity rights. So effectively, collegiate athletes in 99.9% of the cases are at the peak of their brand potential, and historically they haven't been able to leverage that brand or monetize it in any way. And now with the new, landmark ruling on July 1st, 2021, collegiate athletes can now use their platform and their brands that they built over the course of their athletic careers to, build their own brand, continue to build their brand, and also monetize it and provide value for the businesses as well.
Are there any rules around NIL, or can anybody go make any kind of money wherever they want at any time?
No, there's definitely rules and regulations. Peyton, as you know, as a former athlete, compliance has a almost egregious oversight of everything that we do on a daily basis. So there has to be rules, and the big thing for the NCAA is maintaining the amateurism status of their athletes, right? So the big thing is that they don't want, the universities to be able to compensate the athletes, right? So that's why sponsorships and third-party sponsorship and opportunities are the way to go, and that's why we're excited about the space that we're in and being able to offer a safe, compliant, and reliable marketplace for these athletes. But then there's industries, right, that are banned from engaging, right? So adult entertainment, alcohol, at least for athletes who are not the age of 21. Gambling, right? Sports gambling is banned from NIL. The cannabis industry, right? So, and then international students don't yet have a set of laws that allow them to monetize their name, image, and likeness. So that's like 15% of student athletes, right? So you talk about market opportunity, right? That we're not able to really tap into yet. That's 15% of the student athlete body, the international students. So that has to do with visas and green cards, right? So we're still waiting on that. And our thing at Mogul is we're big on compliance.
So what is Mogul? I mean, tell us what you guys have built. Yeah.
So what Mogul is it's a platform that allows athletes to seek out opportunities to monetize their name, image, and likeness. On the flip side, it allows businesses and brands, both at the local scale all the way up to the national level, to really access athletes for marketing opportunities. So we like to say it's a safe, secure, and compliant marketplace that allows athletes to scroll through verified opportunities to make money, get paid, and allows businesses and democratizes access to athletes for businesses to build awareness for their products and services.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a business owner myself and as a former athlete, I see this synergistic moment, right? And what gets me really excited, and I think a lot of our listeners too, who maybe are in their own business outside of college, there are so many opportunities for businesses to get involved in this. And I think a lot of the focus is put on the athletes, which is the way it should be. I mean, the athletes are the reason that all of this is happening, but there are so many opportunities out there for businesses to get involved and really take advantage of this. And I kind of want to dive into what that looks like. So as you said, the platform has multiple verified opportunities. So if I'm an athlete, what does this process kind of look like for me? Am I logging on and then just kind of scrolling, or what?
Yeah, so we've really done a lot of iterations to the platform, to our process, to our systems, to make it the most athlete-friendly product that's out there for the athlete. So it's really simple to sign on, create a profile similar as you would do on a LinkedIn or any other social media platform. And then once we approve that account and verify that you're an actual college athlete, then we grant you access to essentially what's a job dashboard of opportunities, right? That are the marketing opportunities that Ayden alluded to, right? So we've done appearances, autograph signings. Majority of NIL has been social media campaigns, and those jobs are posted by the local businesses, the local or national businesses for athletes to apply to. And then once you apply to them, right? Let's say I see an autograph signing for $500 that really is appealing and compelling opportunity to me. All I do, Peyton, is apply to it. And then, as I was saying, our compliance system is very streamlined. So once an athlete applies to that opportunity, that contract is sent directly to compliance their oversight.
For the athletic department?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have
wow.
direct communication with each athletic department's compliance office, just so they can have some oversight and insight into what their athletes are doing on the Mogul platform. So it's a streamlined process, and then the athlete applies, they get hired for that job, and then they do that autograph signing, and then they're also paid right there in through our payment system. So it's a very A to Z process, right, that we like to say, and it keeps the athletes all, the entire process for the athletes all on one platform.
Talk a little bit about the process of getting that set up with each individual athletic department, because that's no easy task. I mean, there are 120 Division I programs, but NIL extends beyond Division I to others. So kind of what was that process like, where, all athletic departments extremely accepting right off the bat, or was there kind of a process of working it into them?
Yeah, I think for us, we went out and hired a director of compliance, but before that, I had an understanding as an athlete what compliance was going to want to, how they were going to want to engage. So I told Ayden that this was going to be a really important component, and Ayden understood that. So that's why we went out and hired a director of compliance. But even before we hired him, our goal was to get in and build trust. Yep. And Ayden can speak more to the legality of how you're able to work with a university versus how you're able to work with student athletes. But, our big thing was building trust. And then, just for our system, it was obtaining, each compliance office's emails that we can communicate with. And it was more, and it wasn't just getting them on board. It was okay. We're doing this preliminary to anything being allowed. Like, we want you to have full, trust into what we're doing for your athletes, right? So we're providing you this information for free, and we're not even asking you if you want it, right? It's we're giving this to you because we want you to have that insight that we know you want to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the big thing that really differentiates Mogul in this space, is that it was built as a free market for athletes and businesses to leverage, but we were built to ensure that athlete eligibility is never impacted negatively throughout this entire process. So universities receive our incredibly robust disclosure automatically for everything that their athletes do. So all activity on the Mogul platform is disclosed, whereas broadly throughout the marketplace, only 10% of name, image, and likeness deals have been disclosed to the university. Mm-hmm. So universities are incredibly receptive towards what we built. The disclosure process is incredibly streamlined for them, and they're assured that everything that's done on our platform is disclosed. And the best part is they don't have to pay for it.
Yeah. Okay, you just kind of brought up something I never really thought about. Let's say I go off on my own as an athlete and I get my own deal. I mean, is that the vast majority of deals, people doing it on their own? I mean, that must be a compliance nightmare.
It's DMs, man.
Yeah, for real.
Right?
I mean, if I'm a shady business guy and I just fire off a DM to somebody that, I want. So kind of what's the problem with doing that? What kind of nightmare does that cause for the athletic departments?
Yeah, well, the difficulty with that is that athletes have been largely uneducated or uninformed in this new space, and it's not a fault of their own, and in many cases it's not a fault of the university either. The NCAA gave them absolutely no wiggle room or lead time with regards to this new landscape.
They just kind of launched it.
June 30th, President Mark Emmert said, hey, all right, this is coming in. Every school, manage your own policies, create your own protocols, which obviously doesn't work for anyone. Universities are already strapped from a capacity perspective after the pandemic. So, what's happening at this point is businesses are, as Brandon said, DMing athletes and saying, hey, do you want to work with us? But then athletes are signing contracts that they don't even know what they're really getting into. And it's limiting what they can do on a long-term basis from a name, image, and likeness perspective. And they're also just not having proper oversight from a legal perspective into it. Which is where we come in, right? Obviously, we're ensuring not only compliance, but every opportunity is fully vetted and verified through the Mogul platform.
I remember, coming in freshman year, we get that first cost of attendance check. And for a lot of people, they just go and they blow it, right? Because they're excited about having this, big sum of money that kind of popped up for no reason. But I'm also kind of thinking the same thing happens when you get a DM from somebody and they're like, hey, for $20K, you do this, just sign this contract. Are any athletes kind of overextending themselves and then getting into trouble because they're not reading the fine print? They're not realizing that they're locking into an exclusive agreement with this person or anything kind of like that?
Agreement in perpetuity.
In perpetuity, they're getting a slice forever kind of thing.
Yeah. The only kind of deal I've seen kind of go, in the wrong direction is the basketball player, and it's a unique situation. I don't know if you saw this, but the kid declared for the NBA draft. Started selling his gear through another company that was doing the merchandise thing, and they're doing really well, and a great team over at that company. But in the NBA, you have the chance to kind of rescind your decision to declare and return back to the NCAA, right? So then you have to obviously abide by the NCAA rules, and so he had sold his gear and made money, and it was before July 1. So for him to come back and play this year, he was suspended, I think, a couple of games. But it's just a very unclear situation and timing, right? So, but yeah, we've seen athletes kind of, again, the uneducation and the uninformed thing has definitely played a part. Even in week 1, there was things that were going on where athletes weren't aware of the fine print within contracts. So we try to do our best in being very transparent with athletes and businesses as well. So it's such a learning. It's such like for us, like we learn something every day, and we try to stay as close to the land as possible.
And I think that's going to happen a lot this year, right? Because this is like the frontier year, the question marks, because it's, there are people that are going to take advantage of it and do some crazy stuff because the rules and regulations maybe aren't there. So, do you think anything is going to get walked back after this year? Has there been any structure of deals, type of deals that maybe might not be possible in the future?
I think we can speak on this, right? Like we've seen the pay for play and the booster. Like there's going to be
the booster one is really interesting to me because so the
walk-ons get,
yeah, exactly.
Everyone deserves things, but the way that we were going into it, it was going to be hard to facilitate full team sponsorship deals. But we've seen that at multiple, like Miami and BYU. We've seen it. So, we have our thoughts, and I mean we're Notre Dame guys, right? Like we could easily. So and Notre Dame wants to do things right, and so do we, right? So we're very weary of the way that we engage with especially when it comes to group licensing and doing things with entire teams, right? Like, so we're just being very cautious about some of those things.
Yeah, and one of the things that we do out of caution, but also out of support for our athletes and our user base as well, is we provide resources both for partners and for athletes around name, image, and likeness monetization and regulation. We're really trying to educate and inform all of the users and our entire customer base on the Mogul platform, because at this point, unfortunately, just so many people are not educated in this space. And so we're confident that our approach and our really thoughtful approach here will win out in the end. But yeah, like you said, we've seen some really interesting deals go in so far.
Yeah. So education, I think, is a massive part of this. And we've spent a little time talking about educating student athletes. Now let's flip to educating the businesses, because that's 50% of this equation. So what does Mogul do for businesses?
Yeah. So what Mogul does is a few things. One, as I mentioned, we have the resources for partners. So we've created a number of instructional courses and curriculum and resources, presentations, things like that helps them to creatively think about different ways that they can engage from a name, image, and likeness perspective with athletes. But also one of the things that we like to do as well from a customer success perspective is work really closely with all of the businesses on our platform, because at the end of the day, 75% of the businesses on our platform are local businesses that may or may not have the capacity or the wherewithal to manage their marketing campaigns, right? They've never done this before. So we work really closely with them to help them to think about ideas and different ways in which they can work with athletes, but also we help to highlight specific athletes that would be great candidates for that campaign. And then taking it one step further, the way that the platform's built is it's built, as I said, as a free market. So it gives businesses visibility into all of the other opportunities on the platform that other businesses have posted. in an effort to hopefully open their eyes to the different array of possibilities, and help them to see if their offers are competitive as well.
The focus on local businesses I think is really important, because the two schools that instantly come to my mind are Louisville and Texas. And the reason is because there are no professional teams in Louisville and Austin. I mean, there is an MLS team here now, but those are massive markets, and the college sports is the focus of it. So from a local business standpoint, I would want to do everything I could from an NIL standpoint to work with those athletes, because they're big cities, but the college athletes, I mean, they run it from a, fame standpoint. So what are some of the typical deals that you see? I know you guys have done some work here in Austin, and I think that that's, perfect and ties into that. So like, what do some of these local deals look like?
Yeah, specifically in Austin, you hit on it, right? We partnered with a burger spot called Jew Boy Burgers. Actually, the owner was a former offensive lineman himself, so it was something near and dear to his heart. But the burger spot was actually celebrating the launch of their new breakfast burrito. And what we did was we partnered them with the entire University of Texas offensive line. So starting left tackle all the way to third string right guard. And what they did was they came in, they promoted the launch of the burrito on their social medias, and then they also came in and met with patrons and had a really great morning. And one of the things that we saw is obviously it was the first day they were launching the burrito, so it's of course 100% increase in sales, but they sold about 100 breakfast burritos, and they had never sold a breakfast burrito ever before. So the value was immediately imminent. We were able to capture that, and we're really excited for the partnership with Jew Boy Burgers. But the best part beyond anything else is that it proved out our hypothesis that it doesn't have to be the starting quarterback or the starting point guard who engages from an NIL perspective. There's opportunity and value to be driven by all athletes, and that's what we've built here.
Yeah. What, there's such a focus on football and basketball because they are the main two revenue sports. But, let's say I'm a golfer or I'm a gymnast or a swimmer. Can I still use Mogul? What does that look like for my career?
Yeah. I mean, to his point, right? Our hypothesis coming into this was, and the question that I wanted to answer was, how can we provide value for that other 99%, Peyton, that wasn't going to have the chance, to be a Trevor Lawrence or a Zion Williamson or a Drew Brees from Purdue, right? But they still,
Austin.
right, and Austin, right? But they still provided so much value in the local communities, being that, again, like schools like Texas, they are the celebrity within the community. And something that we're excited about and continue to build towards is providing structure around athletes, and they're doing personal training lessons and camps, right? Because every athlete can has someone within their community, 50-mile radius that looks up to them and that values them and thinks, oh, they play at a collegiate level, like from a Division III school athlete can do this, right? Yeah. Because they're playing at a collegiate level. They've made it to that height of competition. So there's always a high school kid, or a mother or father of a 9-year-old that wants their kid to have someone to look up to and kind of be a role model. So they'll put their kid with them to train them, right? And I think that opportunity is going to be very lucrative for athletes for many years to come within the NIL space. And to Aiden's point, 80% of our athletes and the deals that have been constructed through the Mogul platform have been through non-revenue generating sports or athletes. So again, it just confirms our hypothesis coming into this.
Now, something that probably hasn't happened yet because NIL is so new, but what is the process going to look like when somebody, a business wants to stop working with an athlete, or maybe the athlete does something that violates the terms of the contract? What does that rescinding process look like, or what is it going to look like?
Yeah, I think UCLA comes to me. It's funny. Like I have these examples in my head already when you propose these scenarios. But the UCLA offensive lineman, there was a viral video of him, using derogative, vocabulary, and so he had a partnership with, I forget the brand, but they negated the contract, right? So it was within the contract that they could. Void this contract.
Did he know that was in the contract, or did that kind of?
He knew that. And it's probably within like, it's tough, right? Like as an athlete, you're not reading 7 pages.
But it's probably a pretty traditional contract in form of
Yeah.
like, don't embarrass the brand kind
Don't
of thing.
embarrass yeah, exactly. Like any Nike deal, like if a professional athlete did something stupid, they can, they take away your contract. So that's one of the examples that I've seen. But that's going to be a thing for, all athletes to consider, and it's just their behavior. And what it really allows is for athletes to become a professional and to begin developing their professional careers so much early on, rather than having to wait till they actually become a pro.
Can Mogul help with the compliance form? Like, I'm trying to think as a compliance department, there's 85 players on the football team, and then you have, a ton of other athletes. I mean, that's a lot of deals to manage. So kind of from a compliance standpoint, if, something is happening with all of those individual deals, can Mogul be used to kind of help with that?
Yeah, so that's part of the reason why we hired our director of compliance, right? So not only does he have experience working in Stanford's compliance office and at the NCAA and interning for Villanova's compliance office as well, but he also has a law background and a JD as well. So he has the ability to really provide a lot of color and a lot of value with regards to, contract review and remediation where necessary as well. At scale, we'll obviously be probably partnering with some law firms and things like that in order to continue to provide that value for compliance offices. But right now, he's been the primary, mediator in those situations. We luckily, from a mogul perspective, haven't ran into any of those remediation scenarios yet, but we definitely, see them on the horizon as something that can happen.
Yeah, no, I definitely, and, kind of tying back into what we were talking about earlier with the learning year. I think, in a calendar year, everybody's going to kind of take a step back and look at what happened the last year in terms of NIL, and changes are going to be made, things are going to be walked back, but also things are going to be added, and there's a really bright future. So kind of where is NIL going to go in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that's going to happen, or at least that we're hoping happens, is regulation, right? So
you want that structure.
Correct, because we've built everything from a platform perspective to be able to work with a strong regulatory environment. We've always approached this space from an oversight perspective, recognizing that athletes would benefit from regulation. So one of the things that we definitely anticipate is a national name, image, and likeness rule. How long that takes, I'm not sure. We were expecting it in July, then we were expecting it in January, but who knows? Probably a couple years out. But one of the things that will really help with is from a compliance disclosure perspective, it makes our lives easier, right? We don't have to worry about, all right, in Ohio, athletes have to disclose their activity 7 days in advance, or in Florida.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then, or in Florida, athletes can, they don't have to disclose their specific monetary compensation, or they can work with alcohol brands, but then in Texas, they absolutely can't, right? So there's all those nuances that we will then no longer have to deal with, hopefully. But so I think regulation largely is coming, and it will help. It'll really benefit us as well, because once there's broader oversight and also, repercussions of not disclosing on your on behalf of your NIL, then people are going to be more inclined to use a platform such as ours.
Yeah. And, the thing I love, and kind of over the course of this entire conversation, you guys have been, kind of flexing your knowledge of the industry and what this kind of looks like. But, the really cool thing is, maybe 2-3 years ago, you guys weren't necessarily at this point of understanding exactly the nuances, let alone being able to build a business on it. So why don't we kind of move a little bit into your backgrounds and what kind of made you unique and able to address this challenge and build Mogul as a business? So, why you two? Why are you guys able to do this?
Well, I appreciate Ayden and the opportunity to join and to get rolling with a product like this, right? And to be in this business. But for me, and something that I've noticed about myself is I've taken really, I've really enjoyed updating our product features to best suit our athletes. That's something I never expected, is to be focused on the tech build out. Yeah. But we have great communication with our tech team. They've done a really good job of innovating, right? It's such a
Iterative process.
Yeah, iterative process. Because every day there's something, okay, this athlete doesn't like this, or this business wants this, right? They rather this feature. So for me, I'm able to understand, and from the first time that we spoke about creating a product, it was how can we make this the most easy and seamless process for the athlete? So it's like, how can we take them from point A in the NIL process to point Z? And we've continued to build out product features that allow the athletes to go about this within a 30-minute time span, and the businesses to produce the same type of outcome within a short time. But my background personally, having played sports, it was just, what does the athlete want? What's best going to suit the athlete? Like encompassing the entire athletic department.
You're the industry expert.
Yeah, So and Ayden was the mind, behind. I'll let him get into it, but the idea, obviously, there's nothing without the idea.
He's really humble. He said he played sports. Former quarterback at the University of Notre Dame here played sports. I played sports. I mean, for me, right, I think one of the really, really great parts about this new entrepreneurship journey has been the ability to leverage everything that I've learned throughout my professional career in the past. Like, broadly from an operational and a management perspective, and just from an overall process perspective, the importance of process and standardized approach, and managing a team has been really, really incredible for me. Obviously, I was part of a really great wealth management rotational analyst program at Morgan Stanley that really instilled accountability, and structure and everything. So that's been really great to apply to this team and take a lot of those lessons and learnings from that, but also from a sales perspective as well. At the end of the day, when you're working in wealth and when you're working in fundraising and in private equity, you're essentially doing sales, right? You're selling your business, you're selling your company. And then, as Brandon and I, over the last 4 months, we just concluded our pre-seed fundraise. Extremely excited to
There you go. Congratulations.
Yeah. Massively oversubscribed in that round. And that fundraising experience really provided really great experience, and obviously materials, modeling, presentations, things like that has been really valuable for us as a team. But the best part about this entire journey that we've been on together, right? And my God, it's been a while, right? October of 2019 is when we started, and then for the longest time, it was just Brandon and I doing networking calls with sports tech executives, VCs. Developers, things like that, just learning how to be an entrepreneur. And we're still learning every day. Like, we didn't know how to incorporate a company. We didn't know how to trademark anything. Google has been a big friend of ours.
Oh, it's huge. I owe Google a lot of money.
Right.
Absolutely, right? And that's just been the most exciting part about this. I remember the day, and I think they coincided really well, the day that Brandon and I both stopped our full-time jobs and just did Mogul. I remember waking up and being like, holy shit, like, this is what I do for a living now.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, because I think that there are a lot of our listeners who have a crazy idea, and we kind of quoted it a couple episodes ago, but entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is taking a chance and turning your crazy idea into something real. And I think that there are so many of us who are working another job who have something, cooking, something that we work on from 9 to 5, the reverse way, right? 9 p.m. to like 5 a.m. Like, we're grinding on it. What was your process to kind of get to the point where you're like, okay, I need to take this leap of faith. I need to dive into Mogul head first. Because it's a scary decision to make.
Yeah. I mean, for us, we wanted to do it, months and months before we actually took that leap. Right. Yep. Unfortunately, due to the lack of visibility or lack of transparency into name, image, and likeness regulation, we weren't able to take that step until, roughly 2 months out. We knew, okay, this is going into effect. Regulation is going to allow this to happen. Now we'll be able to truly prepare for this. So for us, it was hard work. I mean, it's cliche it is to say, finishing the day job around 6, 7, and then getting started on the real work, that can't be overstated. And that's something that has been really, really interesting and exciting to look back on, as well as like, holy crap, like, this took a lot of work. So, I mean, for us, it was obviously the regulation changed things and allowed us to do this legally. but also we had the opportunity to join a venture studio, which was founded by two, veterans in the tech space. So one is a former CTO, 10-time serial entrepreneur with a focus in marketplaces. And then the other is, on the Midas list for top VC investors in the world, founder of Pivot North Capital. And they gave us the ability to then leave our full-time jobs, right? They put some money up front for us as we navigated our fundraise, and then we were able to go at this full-time.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about fundraising, because I think it's something that scares a lot of people. Right now for T2, we're finishing our second round of funding right now, and I have learned so much through it. But what do you think is a good way to get started when it comes to raising money? I think everybody's really scared by the term VC, and standing in front of a room full of dudes in suits and trying to pitch your idea, and then almost guaranteed to say no, right? These big firms are only taking 7-8 deals a year. Where can somebody get started if they think that fundraising is the route that they need to go?
Make a great deck. Just start with an incredible deck and it'll help you, but I'll let you go.
So we're lucky, right? Like, we're blessed. And we've been parts of so many conversations, but we're fortunate to have a network of people who, like he said, we're in a venture studio with a guy who was a former partner at Sequoia Capital, and he's been a mentor of mine for probably 6-7 years now. So I spent some time while I was at school doing some venture capital work and was able to network. And I think that's something that Ayden and I are pretty strong at. But when it comes to specifically funding, I think for your company, you have to understand whether or not your company is going to be better off with you, going the institutional capital route, or with you, what's it called, bootstrapping your entire company, right? Yep. And we were on that path for a long time, but we understood that, okay, this is going to take a little bit more capital on our hands to get to the point that we want to go to. And then for us, it was like, okay, we really need to raise, because this is such a land grab, right? Like, this was like, who's going to win in the first 6 to 12 months, and really comprise themselves of the athlete population, right? There's 500,000 athletes, but it's who's going to get, the population, who's going to, have the better product early on. Yep. And then the same thing, it's like, who can sell more on the business side, and we needed to hire and hire to make that come to fruition. So for us, it was, okay, let's go raise a little bit of money, whether it's institutional capital, angel investors. And it was really people, we launched our first, it was a safe round structure, right? So it was really, truly just support, right? From family, friends, and people with,
which is a good place to start, right? Because I think your family and friends can very quickly validate your idea in terms of, okay, hey, like, this is real. Because if you can't articulate it and get your family excited about it, it's going to be really, really hard to get investors.
Sometimes they're like excited just because
you're it's
excited.
You. Yeah.
But for us, again, it was truly support, people from the Notre Dame community, people who helped us and supported us along the way. And obviously, the guy that we're speaking of from Sequoia was very well, supported within the VC industry. It's like, when he backs something,
it's backed
and by other people. So we understood the approach that we wanted to take. And again, like Ayden said, we're fortunate to be oversubscribed. But I think it's really important from a entrepreneur standpoint to understand whether or not your company's going to be better off being bootstrapped, or if you need to go the institutional capital route. Because if you receive institutional capital, it's likely that they're going to want to, sometimes veer off or take your.
They're getting really involved.
They're going to get in the weeds and may take your company in a different direction that you don't plan on going. So just be very careful about that. And hopefully, we're at a point within the next year or so that, we've given up all the equity that we need to, and we can continue to run and own the company, to the point that we do today.
Yeah, that's equity is another kind of scary topic, because I think so many people think that, like, you need to control 51% of your company, and like, they're like, oh, I don't want to give up any equity. But like, if you look at really successful companies, nobody owns 51%. That's it's 15. Bezos owns 12% of Amazon. So, why don't you guys kind of talk a little bit about your philosophy and your understanding and the evolution of that towards equity? Because especially early on, it is such an incredibly powerful resource, right? It allows you to bring the right people on. I'm sure your director of compliance was somebody that was really important. I mean, that potentially is an equity worthy position, right? And also when you're transitioning out of the bootstrap, you might not necessarily have the cash on hand to pay somebody a crazy salary to bring them in. So you have to get them excited with equity. So why don't you guys talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, from day one, basically when we were trying to figure out whether we wanted to bootstrap this or whether we wanted to take on equity, the saying that we kept saying was, would you rather have 100% of zero?
Yep.
Or would you rather have, 30% of, make it up,
Yep.
whatever you think this is worth.
$1 billion, we'll go unicorn.
Yeah, there you go. So that was kind of what we consistently said. Equity is incredibly important. The one thing that I would say on the equity note to founders who are just getting started out or who potentially evaluating advisor roles or new hires as well is that just you really want to make sure that any new hire, any advisor that's coming on is going to be able to provide you value beyond just that first year or that first 2 years, because I think one of the really short-sighted things that a lot of companies do, and we've seen some in our space even do it as well, is they bring on a lot of advisors for immediate short-term gain and then get strapped on the equity, whatever that is that they're giving up to them, like 0.5%, 0.25%, potentially even 1%. But then, long-term, are they really going to continually be able to?
Because you can
provide
dish
value?
out those fast agreements all you want, and you can bring on
Absolutely.
as many advisors.
And especially when you're getting started, you may really think that you need it, right? Like things aren't hitting, you're losing traction, or you're not gaining the traction that you thought you might, and you get all of a sudden connected to a major, executive or someone who has a network that you really think would benefit you, or a professional athlete, right? And you dish out equity, and then 6 months later, after they kind of sent your idea out to all their friends, what are they really doing for you? So that was something that we evaluated a lot, and we had the opportunity to give away a lot of equity that we really never did. We're excited about that. Really excited about that.
We've talked a lot about the things that we're excited for, and happy things, right? But part of running a business is overcoming adversity. And I think as a, former athlete, or as you said, somebody who played sports, failure and adversity is something that's really important. So do you guys maybe have an opportunity where, something on the business front maybe didn't go your way, but out of it, you either took something really valuable, learning experience, or maybe a new opportunity, kind of, Phoenix out of the ashes kind of thing?
One of the things that I can talk about, it's not necessarily a day-to-day failure, but part of that fundraising conversation, right, is in order to really have a serious conversation about fundraising, you really need to build out and validate the use case, right? And the best way to do that beyond just focus groups and surveying is building out an MVP. Yep. And we did that. We used it to validate our use case, and that was part of the reason why we were able to raise money so quickly, was because we've been here for roughly 3 years, right? And we really have validated that use case without even having the platform prior to, the last year. Yep. But one of the things I would say that, one of the failures that we had as first-time founders is that as we were so, in the weeds building our business, speaking with as many businesses as possible and athletes as possible, we weren't paying close enough attention to the outsourced dev that was building our MVP. Mm-hmm. So we would have weekly calls with them, and they'd say, "Hey, this is going great. This is going great. This is the update. This is the update." But we weren't, sinking our teeth in to the degree that you really need to with your first product or platform development. And I would say that was, one of our potential failures, or something that could have sped up things later down the line if we had been more involved from the start on the dev perspective. Like, we had just anticipated them getting the vision and building it. But when we actually took it to our internal dev team that we have now, were exceptional. There were many issues, many bugs, and you live and you learn.
Yeah,
we didn't know. Like we didn't know, right? Yeah, we had no idea what we were doing, and it's just like great. Like this kid, we had people. We thought people had experience, and we thought they were just gonna understand what we understood, right? And that's just not the case.
Yeah, no, our first MVP, we did an offshore team, and we did weekly stand-ups, and we would just, like, my technical co-founder, Luke, he would have to just untangle messes every single week. And we've recently shifted to a different dev shop, and we have daily stand-ups, and it has made all the difference in the entire world because I see every single advancement and I can nip it in the bud before it gets out of control.
They get annoyed. They're like, you have so many correct bugs, and
Yeah.
you know, when you do the daily ones.
Yep. But also at the same time, as a founder, it's your money. It's your investors' money.
Right.
Like, you better make sure that
Everything's
you're,
on point.
and and if they don't like it, then they can stop working with you, kind of thing.
No,
So
our internal dev has been amazing.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the other thing on that note, right, is you actually had a technical founder or a technical partner. For the first year and a half, it was just Brandon and I, and a team of interns throughout, universities throughout the country. So it was Brandon and I, who have never taken an engineering class in our entire lives, overseeing, the development of an incredibly powerful platform. That doesn't work. So luckily now we have a former CTO on our team, and we have a project manager, and we have 5 full-time engineers. So we're a little bit more
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of this entire learning process, right? That's what being an entrepreneur is all about: understanding what your strengths are, what your team's strengths are, and then understanding where your gaps are, and then going out and filling it accordingly. Guys, this conversation has been awesome, but I have one final question for each of you. Simply, why are you entrepreneurs?
Do you want to start? Yeah, I guess I'll start. To be honest, I didn't know what I was going to be, right? Like I studied accounting, and the purpose for me studying accounting was to grasp a foundational understanding of business. And I think I've done that. And Notre Dame did a good job of that. But it was, I think, more so than me actually studying accounting, is the people that were around me that helped me understand business, right? It was the conversations that I was able to have. But why am I an entrepreneur today is solely for the opportunity to learn. Like I'm a very curious individual, and entrepreneurship has opened so many lanes and avenues of learning. And from our experience, just 2 years, Aiden and I are gonna be able to, I was reading Rich Dad,
Poor Dad, yep.
And the opportunity to be good at a breadth of things rather than a specialty, I think, is proven to have so much more value, especially in the world that we're living in today. So I think our experiences are really, as an entrepreneur, going to help us conquer so much more than, what we would have done if we were, specialized in one category.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I touched on it earlier, but I'm really an entrepreneur to make a difference and truly make an impact. I think that you can have a great life, working a finance career in New York, and in many ways you are making a difference with your clients. But I think the breadth of the difference that you can make as an entrepreneur, and also just the overall control over whom you're benefiting and what you're benefiting, is far greater. It's been the most exceptional experience of my entire life. And as Brandon said, learning at a much faster rate as well, right? You learn really specific skills in your professional career, right? Excel, PowerPoint, portfolio management, for example, in finance. But here we're learning how to build a company. We're learning some stuff about technical development. We're learning sales at scale. We're learning, networking to the degree that I never even thought possible. And we're also learning how to manage a team at, candidly, a young age, right?
Yeah. And you're learning it fast.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, like the youngest CEOs at, large companies are 35, something like that. And that's insane. And we're doing it here. So yeah, I mean, I'm truly, an entrepreneur because I tried it the other way. And I think that this is just so much better. And it's something that I'm so much more passionate about.
And that's a great take on it. You tried it and you like it this way, because I think it's important for everybody to, try the different routes. I mean, for some people, they try entrepreneurship and it didn't work for them, which is totally fine. But I think a lot of our listeners here, they tend to skew our way a little bit more. So guys, if people want to learn a little bit more about Mogul, where can they go? Where can they find you? And then if they want to learn more about you as individuals, where can they find you guys? Social media plugs.
So we are online. I think that's the best way to find information. We are urging people to sign up too. That's why I'm saying we're online. www.mogul, that's MOGL.online. We have a full website there. And then we're also on Instagram. That's at get.mogul. Then we're also on Twitter, the Mogul app. We're also really active on our LinkedIn, and that's where we post tons of our updates, our daily, weekly updates. Where else? We're on TikTok. We do love these podcasts, so thank you so much. You're about to say something.
Verified on TikTok.
Verified on TikTok. There you go. Big stuff.
Yeah. But no, we're all over the place, and we're looking forward to connecting with anybody who wants to learn more. Personally, I'm on Instagram at Brandon Wimbush, and same thing on Twitter. So.
Yeah, same thing. Would love to connect to any aspiring entrepreneurs, any potential customers or athletes of Mogul as well. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Ayden Syal. I'm also on Instagram, Ayden Syal. The last name spelled Syal. Actually, my first name spelled weird too. You'll find me. It's on the website. But yeah, I would just really emphasize sign up for Mogul. It's completely free to do so. So any businesses listening, especially, it allows you the ability to experiment with this and explore. You can post as many opportunities as you like for free. That's mogul.online.
There you go. Ayden, Brandon, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Peyton.